Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
And welcome to the Full Spectrum Project on WBHM-DB. You are here with Pete Haviland, my co-host, and I am Brian Clune, your host. Say hello, Pete.
Hello, Pete.
Actually, I am a co-host also. You'll have to pardon us. We've had kind of a weird... our guest who we had scheduled today... Bud Steed is not going to be able to make it tonight due to some funky weather in the state he's in. However,
we'll get him rescheduled.
We definitely will. But great news. The guest that we had scheduled last week, who had weird weather and couldn't make it last week, is here this week. So we're sort of doing a little flip-flop here. But also, we are naturally joined by Angie Mole with our Weird World News. Can you say hello, Angie?
Hey, y'all.
And Angie, I need to apologize. And Terry wanted to apologize to you as well. Yesterday was apparently your 64th birthday, and we completely forgot about it.
Oh, don't tell her that. She's going to hang up, and we're going to be stuck with the news.
Hey, you remember all those California bashing? Payback. Anyway, Angie, seriously.
How good are you at ad-libbing?
Apparently
you may
not
have to
too
do
good.
that with the news, because that officially makes me retired.
Hey.
Oh, see? Now you retired Angie, and now we're going to have to do the news. What the hell are you doing, Brian?
I said it's been a weird day.
We are so screwed.
Well, it's okay. You know why? Because I will go online and I will find the weirdest animal news possible. No? Okay, maybe not. Anyway, so we are joined today by Kathleen Maca, and we're going to be talking about Haunted Galveston, and possibly some cemeteries in the area. But welcome, Kathleen. It's great to have you, and we're sorry we missed you last week. But say hello to our audience for us.
Hi, everybody.
You're in trouble, Kathleen. You know that, right?
I'm sorry?
You're in trouble. You know that, right? Welcome to the zoo.
Yes, welcome to the zoo, Kathleen.
Happy to be here.
By the way, this is the weirdest thing, all right?
Don't feed the animals.
You shouldn't feed the animals. But what's
Too
so
late.
bizarre is I actually found out that there is a rock group out there that has 4 men in it, and none of them sing. And their name is Mount Rushmore. So that is the weirdest rock group ever.
We're starting early.
No, we're not.
We're starting early.
Anyway, Kathleen, for our listeners who may not be familiar with you, can you kind of give us a little bit about your background and how you got into writing about gravestones, cemeteries, haunted locations, and it seems like you have a pretty good passion for history.
Yeah, and, all things related to dead people, evidently. I have been a cemetery historian for decades, for a long, long, long time. And I was a writer. I still am a writer at a magazine in Galveston, and was looking for a good book about the Galveston cemeteries because they're very old and they're fascinating, but nobody had written one. So I decided, okay, I'll write it. And from there, people realized that I also know a lot of ghost stories, and they asked me to write that one. So it kind of steamrolled. But now I give cemetery tours and ghost tours and just have a lot of fun with it.
Nice.
You do ghost tours?
Pardon?
You do ghost tours?
I do some ghost tours. There are a lot of ghost tour companies in Galveston, so I usually concentrate on the cemetery tours, but I do ghost tours for groups.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So
when you're walking around with all these ghosts, do they actually listen, or do they go into the buildings, or what?
Yeah, actually, I usually stay pretty much on the Strand. Galveston is known as a notoriously haunted island, which makes sense because they've had hurricanes, including the 1900 storm, which is still to this day the deadliest national disaster.
Yes.
And they've had a Civil War battle, and they've had yellow fever epidemics. So they've had a lot of tragedy, and a lot of the hauntings seem to come from that.
Didn't they also have a lot of the North and the South in Galveston at one point in time?
They did. It changed hands several times.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, at one point, they had a joint funeral for the Confederate and the Union soldiers that were killed one day because it was just too much to handle. So they called a halt to the fighting, and they had a big joint funeral.
Well,
Very
that was
unusual.
actually kind of.
Yeah.
That was kind of.
Yeah.
You know, people are people as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and that's how they handled it.
Yeah.
But when I walk people around, the cemetery is actually a big complex right on Broadway, and it's 7 different cemeteries, but it looks like one huge one.
Okay.
But when I talk about ghosts, I usually take people down to the Strand district, which used to be the waterfront. It was the business district, and now it's kind of a tourism district.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing about that is that you can walk in and out of all the stores and buildings, and the storekeepers are very happy to share their ghost stories with you, or, you know, sometimes if it's me, they'll give me a key to some of the back rooms so I can take people back and show them where things happen and stuff. So
cool.
It's pretty fun.
Okay, I've done a lot of work out there over the years, and I remember going there. I can't remember the name of you go into a hall, like a hall, and it's got like 3 or 4 different restaurants in it, and you go upstairs, and I think that was one of the hospital areas or morgues.
You might be talking about the Hutchings Ball building. There's a school teacher ghost, and actually the first floor of most of the buildings on this Strand, it's multiple blocks along one street is what the Strand is. And the first floor of most of the buildings were wiped clean in the 1900 storm. So almost all of the buildings' ground floors were used as the mass morgue after the storm. So almost all of them can claim that.
Oh, okay. I think it was a pizza place. When you walk into the door, there's a pizza place to the left, and I think there was an old ice cream shop. I'm talking like this is in the 90s or early 2000s, so there's no telling what it is now. I haven't been out there in a while.
I'm pretty sure you're talking about the Hutchings Ball. It's right on a corner. Mm-hmm.
I think so. Like I said, it's been a while. Lafitte's house is still out there. Have you ever heard of any activity out there outside of just the ruins? I mean, the ruins look cool, but I've never heard of anybody seeing anything out there.
The ruins are really cool, and actually, I've met the people that own them. A woman bought them for her husband as a birthday gift because he was a Lafitte fan.
Cool. Okay.
Lafitte actually built his home, which was Maison Rouge, on the land, and he burnt his home down before he left. He burnt the entire little town.
So that's what the ruin is that burnt down what he burnt down?
Well, it looks really similar to it. The only thing that's left was the ground floor that was made out of stone. And then a sea captain in the 1800s came and bought the ruins and built a replica of Maison Rouge. And that was there until like the 1960s. and it finally fell in. So it looks like ruins again. So Maison Rouge has existed there twice, but you can still see the archways and the stairs. If you look at the side of the stairways, you can still see Lafitte's symbol carved into the stones. It's really cool.
I've done some work out in Stewart's Mansion. Had gotten the permission of the people that owned the site, and I think they, at the time when I went there, they owned the restaurant next door to it, Stewart's Reef, and had some really unique experiences out there. We were shooting with Channel 2, I think it was Channel 2 or Channel 13, I can't remember, and had gone in there and smelled apple pie in the kitchen, which was really really strange. We heard music in the ballroom, and had seen a black mass going up the stairs into the bedroom on the right, which I believe was Miss Stewart's room. With that caught fire, I believe. Yeah. Now I understand it. No, they don't let anybody in now.
No, the company that bought it actually decided to buy the entire ranch that was on the Stewart Ranch. And there's actually a cemetery right there. I don't know if you saw it.
Isn't it have something to do with the Conquan Indians or something out there?
That is also there too. It was an original Native American settlement before the Stewart Ranch was built on the land. But the company that bought Stewart's Mansion came in and decided that they were going to build a lot of houses on the land and then use the old mansion as their kind of clubhouse. Well, the houses never came about, but they did succeed in really, as far as I'm concerned, undoing what was good about Stewart's Mansion. They whitewashed out all of the pirate murals. They ripped out all the original
cool.
tiles.
When I went in there, I remember that. Oh, that was so cool.
And you should never whitewash anything piratey, ever. Trust me on this one. I'm a pirate, so
they had little hand-painted tiles out in the courtyard, and all of it's gone. It just looks like a white building now.
Maybe it's a good thing that I haven't been out there in a while. It'd probably break my heart.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, for those of us who don't know what Stewart's Mansion is or who Stewart was, can you give us a little bit of a rundown on that?
I'm sorry, Brian. I'm just talking to him because he and I kind of know the same thing, so I apologize to our listeners.
We're just chatting away.
No worries.
Okay.
So
no worries.
the land where the house was originally an Indian settlement, and when Lafitte came in, his men wanted that land, and they battled with the Indians, and many Indians were killed by the pirates. You don't think of pirates and Indians fighting, but that's what happened. So the next owners were Lafitte and his men, and that is where they built their little settlement out on that end of the island. And much later,
it's like 8 Mile Road, 10 Mile Road, something like 12 Mile Road, something like that.
Yeah, good memory.
I pulled that out. I don't know where.
I'm
surprised.
No
yourself.
comment.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Stewart,
that one hurt.
I don't want any detail. Lord.
I can smell the smoke coming from your ears all the way up.
Yeah. The dogs are looking at me like I did something wrong.
I knew what I was getting myself into with you guys.
Yeah,
okay.
Welcome to the zoo.
So Mr. Stewart bought the land in the 1920s, and that's when the mansion was built. But they had a lot of parties and everything, and that's why it's more of like a Mediterranean-style building. And it went through a couple of owners before it was abandoned for a long, long time. And their family cemetery, the Stewart family cemetery, is out there too, but a lot of people don't notice it because there's a little low brick wall around it, but it's right by the house.
So now the ghosts that are there, what era do they come from, or does it span the whole history of the area?
There are people that claim. Yeah, there are people that claim to see Native American ghosts out there. Most of them, I think, probably date from like the 1920s. There was a lot of bootlegging and rum running and everything on the island back in the 20s, and it was pretty wild.
If you could do it illegally, it was done in Galveston.
Oh yeah. Actually through the 50s, because they just weren't going to arrest anybody for anything.
There was also a slave trade too, running through Galveston, from what I understand.
Yes. A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
That's why there's so much history there. It's ridiculous.
And yet,
so just out of curiosity, they won't do what?
They won't bring in gambling.
Wow.
Well, it was
it's
there
in Texas too.
It was there until the 50s.
Yeah.
And then it was taken away, but it was kind of like under the table. They would have it in these long buildings that peered out over the water, and they would have the gambling halls in the very back. And then
international waters, huh?
Well, no, it was
not
still
really.
illegal.
It's not far
it was
enough out.
Still Texas waters.
Yeah.
So when the deputies would come in the front door, the maitre d's would push a button that would sound the alarm, and all the tables would turn upside down and dump all the chips into the water. And by the time they got all the way to the back of the building, they were just sitting there listening to music.
Oh my God.
It was great.
Oh man, can you imagine for anybody that was doing any treasure hunting out there, to pull up some of those old chips, if they're even there still.
No. With all the hurricanes, probably not. But you never know.
Probably not.
All right, so I'm kind of curious because I'm kind of really into history, as you both well know. Can you give us a little bit of the history of Galveston?
Wow, that's
a tall order.
Open. That is. It's kind of it goes from, like, right now I actually am a contractor for Ancestry, and the documents that I'm going through are before statehood. They're in the 1830s, which for Texas is really old. Because we weren't even a state back then. But I'm amazed they even have records going back that far.
But we were a republic.
Yes, we were a republic. That's why there are records. We were our own little thing.
and from what I was going to say, and from what I hear, you guys want to do that again.
No, I think that's other states saying we do. But okay.
Yeah.
People like to put words in our mouth.
Well, I actually saw a news article, and pardon me, but I cannot remember his name. But it was an attorney general for Texas who actually introduced the articles. So they were introduced, but we won't go there.
No,
it's
not
just
worth it.
Something I found kind of interesting. Anyway, so let's get back to the stumping question of the history of Galveston.
So it goes. There were Spanish explorers that came through Galveston. There were Native Americans.
You just sit back and grab a beer. It's going to be a little while.
Yeah, I'm just going to scan right over it because it goes from there to the Karankawa or Karankawa, depending on who you ask, Indians, Native Americans, and then the pioneers came in. It was settled and made more into a city in the 1850s. And by the time just before the 1900 storm, it was the largest city in the state of Texas, and it was one of the top ports in the nation. So it was very wealthy. 1900 storm killed about 8,000 people in one night.
Wow.
Yeah, it was horrid.
And it is absolutely disgusting how they got rid of some of the bodies and how they came back.
Yeah. Well, you think about it, you have that many bodies to deal with at once.
Tell Brian how they got rid of some of those bodies. I want him to hear it from somebody else besides me.
Yes, please.
So obviously they were inundated with debris and bodies because there were so many bodies around that they had crews go out. They would hand the foreman a bottle of rum, and he would take his men in a wagon and a horse and go and load up the bodies. Sometimes when they would find a body, they would bury it where it was, And if they did, they would take something off the body, a ring or a brooch or a pocket watch, and make a note of it, attach it to it, and they would take that to City Hall so they would know where that person was
If
buried.
it made it on the list, though.
If it made it on the list, the majority of people were loaded onto wagons, taken to the Strand, which is the tourist district that I was talking about earlier, and they were laid in the bottom floor of the buildings, which was the temporary morgue. They got the wonderful idea that they would load them on a dredge, take them out into the Gulf of Mexico, and give them a burial at sea. So they did that with the majority of the bodies. And 3 days later, they washed back.
Oh, my Lord.
Of course, they were in much worse condition by then. So they had to put them back on.
Kathleen, I'm sorry, I have to cut you off there, but we'll continue with that story as soon as we get back. But we have to take a quick station identification break. So please don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the World Wide Web of Weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
And welcome back to the Full Spectrum Project on WBHM-DB out of Birmingham, Alabama. If you haven't joined already and would like to join the chat room, please go to WBHM-DB.com, click on the Full Spectrum Project show banner, and that will take you to the chat room. And if you'd like to call in with any questions for our guest or your hosts, please call area code 205-533-7982. And when we left, you were talking about what they were doing with the bodies, and we'll get back to that in just a sec. But you know how I was talking about a rock group earlier? I actually went to a concert. I'm not
Angie,
kidding.
get the stick.
And it actually only cost me 45 cents. It was really good. It was 50 Cent featuring Nickelback. So it actually was fantastic. So
they should have paid you if you had to sit through Nickelback.
You should have gotten a dime back for the Nickelback.
All right, so we're not even going to go there. I actually happen to like Nickelback, but don't hold that against me. So anyway, you go ahead and finish or continue with your story, Kathleen.
Okay, so we were talking about.
I'm awfully sorry, Kathleen. I apologize.
I'm just tuning him out. He's
okay.
Beyond.
Oh, now that's not fair. Well. Actually, Kathleen, you know what that means, right? I accept that as a challenge.
Oh, great. What have I done?
I don't know.
Exactly.
You started something we have. You started something we have no stop for.
Opened a door.
You opened the door. And you're waving chocolate at him. He's coming in.
All right, so now back to the bodies. That sounds really weird, but you know what I mean.
Oh, my God.
So we were talking about the disposal of the bodies after the 1900 storm and how they were taken out to sea and they all washed back.
The bodies? Really? Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kathleen. I just, the segue to it, it was just, yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
It's a deliciously morbid topic.
Yes, it is. It's not chocolate-covered bodies.
Candy-coated corpses.
Candy-coated corpses for Halloween.
Coming to a store near you.
Coming to a store
near you. And they're ghoulishly good.
Buy one, get one.
I'm done. So is our radio career, but hey.
You're so not.
We beat him into submission. Oh, my God. Quick, Kathleen, start.
Okay. Bodies washed out to sea, float back.
Yes.
So they put them back on the wagons and took them to different places throughout the town and made funeral pyres, which were basically bonfires of bodies because the only thing they could do at that point was to burn them. But there were
and for those listening, that is not the start of Texas barbecue.
No, it wasn't.
That was bad. I'm sorry. I apologize. That was a bad one from me.
And you were talking about me.
I know. That was a horrible one. I am so sorry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Angie, get the stick.
There. Yeah. Okay.
How the
tables have
turned.
It's spread. Yes, they have. I'm so sorry. I'm going to put myself on mute.
No, you're not.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, Lord. Okay, go ahead.
So basically that's what they did with the majority of the bodies. But remember that I said that some bodies they just buried where they found them. So they were actually like in people's yard. They were under the street. They were wherever the body was. Mm-hmm. And they had taken some kind of memento with a little tag. So there would be people that would go to the courthouse and sift through these boxes of jewelry looking for something that belonged to their lost loved one.
Right.
And if they found it, the tag would say where the body was, and then they could go to the person's yard and say, Gertrude's supposed to be here. Can I go get her? And then they could exhume her and bury her in the cemetery.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
There are still bodies all over the island because they could never possibly find all of them.
I've heard stories from people restoring old houses that were like in the 1900 storm, that they found body parts in the walls, in stair casings. I hadn't seen them, but I've heard a lot of people talk about them. Is that true?
I think that's a really good story. I don't think it's an ounce of it's true, but I think it's a really good story.
I feel better about that.
Well, actually, here's something to think about. I'm finishing up a book for History Press called Haunted Heart of San Diego. And when what's now called Old Town Village was being built, they put a trolley down, and what they did is they moved the cemetery, but they didn't necessarily move all of the bodies. So you'll actually... Yeah, so you'll actually see these little markers in the street, in the sidewalk, that say gravesite, and that's where there's actually a body still buried there that people would drive over. Now the story goes that in the areas where the buildings are, if they tear down one of the old buildings and have to dig up the foundations, if they find bones from somebody that was missed in the original construction, that the entire old town village area will start having weird little blackouts. The lights will start flickering. Sometimes the lights will go completely out until they actually manage to get the bones of the buried person out and reburied. So it is possible that people have found bodies in Galveston as they were building or doing reconstruction.
Well, in the Presidio de la Bahia in Goliad here in Texas, the chapel, as well as the priest quarters, they have places where people were buried as well, and you find crosses along the brick on the foundations of where bodies were buried, where there were headstones, and they took the headstones up. And I mean, when in the priest quarters where we stayed in the main room, there was bodies on top of, well, not on top of, underneath the bed, and they were marked with crosses. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty fun.
I think it's absolutely believable because it's happened so often in so many places. The whole thing about them being found in the walls, though, there would be no reason for it. Now, after the 1900 storm, they did actually raise the level of the island. They brought in dredge fill and lifted the buildings, even the big cathedrals. They lifted them up to 12 feet off the ground, filled underneath them, and then set them back down. Okay. So any bodies that were there are even deeper. And that's actually one of the reasons why the cemetery where I give tours, there are 3 levels of burials, because there was the original cemetery, and then they did 2 different grade raisings in the cemetery, and every time they covered the markers, they just resold the plots.
I was just gonna ask you that. So then you might have great grandma on the top, and then there might be 2 other people underneath of her.
Right. That we've lost to time, because the oldest plot maps I have are in the 20s. So we know some of the people that were buried out there, but we don't necessarily know where they are because there have been so many buried on top of each other.
I wanted to ask wanted to ask too, when we were talking about the Karankawan Indians, has anybody talked about seeing any of the ghosts of the Karankawans? Because I know that they were cannibals, and I remember them reading something about them that when they would capture somebody, they would dance around and slice pieces of meat off of them and roast them in the fire. That's what I read that in a couple of the books, actually. So have they seen anything out there in that area, or heard anything?
Actually, I rarely hear stories like that. The only ones I've ever come across are in old books. So I tend to think maybe that just made a good story. I don't know. Or they're out on the end of the island where there aren't as many people, so maybe that's why they're not seen. But I don't know anybody.
But they were cannibal. They were cannibal, right? Or at least they would have ceremony of being a cannibal.
I think it's highly exaggerated that they were cannibal.
Okay.
But yes, that's what's commonly said. I just
Okay.
So I was curious, you said that they raised Galveston Island. What was the original height of the island from sea level?
They were below sea level.
So they were below sea level?
Yeah, a lot of the island was below sea level. So you can imagine it not only filled in, but the island was just wiped clean when the hurricane came in. There were very few things compared to what was standing before still left.
Now, how long after that hurricane did they raise the island?
So it took several years because obviously they had the recovery. But I know when they were building the Hotel Galvez in 1911 is when it opened. Some of the island was still had the canals that they were pulling in the water, but I think it started in earnest. I believe, don't quote me on it, but I believe it was 1904 was when they started really doing a lot of the raising.
Now, did the cemetery have the crypts? Crypt is not necessarily the right word, but similar to
Mausoleum.
what they have in New Orleans, where they couldn't bury the people underground because in New Orleans, as well as what Galveston was, it was below sea level. So they would put them in, like these little crypts. And then the family would have to continue to pay, or else the bones were shoved into the back, dropped into a little receptacle, and another family member from a different family would be put in. Did Galveston have anything like that?
They did not. When the original cemetery was there, they were using, obviously it was so long ago, they were using coffins even instead of caskets, which are like the wooden old West kind of where they're narrower toward the feet. That would be a coffin. A casket is more of a rectangular box, usually made of metal. And even when those came into vogue, they were just buried as is. The mausoleums, there are different methods to be buried in a mausoleum. You can be buried underneath the floor, you can be buried in the walls, or you can be buried even on the exterior of a mausoleum. But there are a lot of stories that say, all the bodies were washed out of the cemetery during the 1900 storm, and they actually weren't. The only ones that were displaced were the ones that were in the mausoleum. And they found the bodies that they found from the cemetery, they replaced in the mausoleums that were still standing. It was pretty amazing.
Well, now, did any of the bodies from the cemetery get washed out during that hurricane, or any of these other hurricanes after that before they got the cemetery raised? Do you know?
I have never. People talk about it a lot because I think they assume it happened. I have never in all my research found any mention that happened, so I really don't believe it happened. The ones that were in the mausoleums were replaced except for one, and Mr. Coughlin was an actor that was visiting from New York City, and he was in a temporary crypt, and he was washed away, and they never found him, but Yankee, it's okay.
I'm not going there. Not gonna do it.
I had to.
That's okay. A lot of people don't know, but
shots fired over the bow.
No, not at all. I was going to say, here in California, we actually had a very large Confederate population out here during the Civil War, and a lot of people don't realize that, but we did.
Yeah, and not all Texans were Confederate soldiers either. We had people just assume that the entire state was Confederate, and it was not.
Well, there goes a lot with a lot of the other states too. Well, that goes a lot with all the other states too. I mean, you had brother versus brother. Even in the Union side, you had people going to the South and stuff like that, following what their heart was.
Absolutely. In Galveston, we had a father and a son, and one Confederate, one Union, and it's a very famous story, but it just brings home how sad the whole thing was.
Yeah. It really was a tough war. It wasn't black and white. It was family versus family. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, war is horrible anyway, but that's why I think that there's a lot of haunted places on the battlefields because of all of the high emotion, and with the place memory of everything like that. I mean, who knows if a brother had to shoot a brother? I mean, how do you live with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And you had a lot of that too, where you would have literally brother against brother. from the same family.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that could even happen, but because I just recently found my brother, and I could not even imagine being on opposite ends of a rifle, if you know what I mean. So
No.
It was a different
so
time.
I'm curious. Yeah, to say the least.
And a
So I
lot
was
of the
curious.
ghosts along the Strand are from the Civil War. They're seen in their uniforms, and it was a very tense time.
Yeah.
Now, I've only been to Galveston once. The Strand, is that, if I remember correctly, is that like the beachfront tourist area where a lot of the historical stuff is?
It's actually the opposite side of the island. So Galveston is
It's like
a
on
really
Main Street
long,
and stuff.
skinny. There really isn't a main street.
Well, I mean,
Galveston's
as far as
it's business.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Galveston's a long, skinny island, and the outer side is what people know as the beach side. But there's a beach on one side, and then there's the port on the other side where all the ships come in. And that is the side that the Strand is on, because that's where all the merchandise would come in and out of the port.
Gotcha.
And a lot of the Strand is intact. It has the original buildings. It's amazing.
Very nice. I think you and I talked about it at when we were in Jefferson last November. The main thing that I remember about Galveston was a place called Colonel Bubby's, and I remember you telling me that it was no longer there, and
that was an institution.
Completely
that was
bummed
an institution
about
in
it.
Galveston. Yeah.
They have just reopened the building, though. The new owners have totally refurbished it, so the windows are actually showing now. They're not all boarded up, and it's beautiful inside. Wow. So it actually looks better now than it did when it was Colonel Bubby's. I think we all just had a sentimental place in our heart about Colonel Bubby's because it was a strange and wonderful place.
Yeah, but
it was an army.
Yeah, you walked into it and it smelled like old clothes. I remember that.
But here's the thing. Can you walk into the new building and purchase a 105 millimeter howitzer? I'll bet you can.
No, you cannot, but you can buy a lovely candle or
you can't blow things up with that.
I was going to say, how are you going to light it without your
howitzer? You could throw it at somebody.
Molotov cocktail? No, that's okay.
Choice.
No, I'm thinking.
You know what? I was going to say you could probably go into Colonel Bubby's and buy one of those too, or they just make you one.
Colonel Bubby's has a story too about a haunting, doesn't it, Kathleen?
Does it?
Well, yes, there's a male in the upstairs of the building, and I'm anxious to go talk to the new owners.
Kathleen, can you hold that thought? Because unfortunately we have to take another break, but I definitely want to hear this one when we come back. I mean, because like I said, Colonel Bubby's just has this place in my heart, and so we'll pick that up on the flip side of the break.
Sounds.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
And welcome back to the Full Spectrum Project on WBHM-DB.
Folks, if you heard the conversation behind the scenes, you would be screaming for us to come back on live.
Actually, Pete was screaming for us to come back on live.
It's like anyway. I was held down and getting a pink belly. Oh, that was horrible. Go ahead. We're talking about Colonel Bubby's and the haunting there.
Okay, so the reason we're calling it Colonel Bubby's, to people who don't know, is it was an Army surplus store called Colonel Bubby's in the old W.L. Moody building. But you could only go on the first floor, and they had these floor-to-ceiling shelves that you could barely walk between. And they had everything from Russian helmets to Japanese, pocket knives, everything war-related, but from all over the world. It was really fascinating.
And what I was talking about when we were off air is a Sherman tank.
Yeah, well, that wasn't the bad part, but go ahead. Talk about Colonel Bubby's. I don't want to hear it right
going
now.
On the bad part.
My stomach is just not doing well.
They don't want to hear what went on at the break.
No, they don't. They don't.
So you were asking about wasn't it haunted? And
yes,
the former owners used to tell stories about the building's ghosts, and they called him Harold.
That's right. It was Harold. I was thinking Hank for some reason.
Yeah, you were close. But he would move and rearrange stuff, and you could hear his footsteps around, coming up and down the aisles behind you. And you could hear them on the floor overhead, which is weird because nobody was allowed up there because back then the floors weren't safe to walk on the upper stories. But yeah, he tended to have fun with the visitors, but his name was Harold. So I'm curious to know if Harold's still making the rounds in the new store.
I would think that he would be. I mean, usually, again, place memory and stuff. I would think that, especially since they redid the place, I would think he'd be more active, or at least he was more active as they were refurbishing it.
Well, he definitely has more room to move around now.
Well, yeah, no joke.
Yeah,
no joke. And I'm actually very impressed that he could move things around in that place, because, as I was stating earlier, I got called a bull in a china shop because I used to knock stuff over when I was in there. As you said, it was just wall to wall.
Yeah, they were crazy. I can remember even as a kid kind of having to walk sideways in between some of the aisles because they were so narrow.
I seem to remember some that I didn't he have? He had a lot of memorabilia, but I'm thinking that there was a lot of German. There was like body parts in there. Weren't there? I thought I saw like a hand or something in there at one point.
I don't remember ever seeing body parts, but they could have been in there and I missed them because it was so crowded.
Yeah. It was like somebody. It was like a hand or something, and I saw that it had a tattoo on it or something. I don't remember. I could be. I don't know.
Well, we'll probably hear about it after this if there was.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure the dog could hit it.
So did anybody ever investigate Colonel Bubby's to find out who the ghost was or why he was there?
No, they basically just called him Harold. There are several ghost hunting teams that do investigations around Galveston, and they definitely keep busy. But the former owners of the building didn't really appreciate more people in the building than necessary. And like I said, the upper floors weren't accessible because of their condition.
It was an insurance thing.
It wasn't really a place that you could go ghost hunting.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now, I have something I want to ask you about. Now, we were talking about the 1900 storm, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The story of Sister Catherine, because that's going to get us up to the Galvez.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It is.
There was, on the beachfront side of Galveston, where Walmart is now, was an orphanage. And there were 90 orphans and taken care of by the Catholic nuns. And when the 1900 storm came in, the nuns each tied 9 children to their waists with these ropes. So they were tied to 9 children, thinking that if the children started to get washed out, they could pull them back in. All of the nuns and the children who were tied to them were drowned in the storm. The only handful of children that survived because they were washed into the treetops. And I think
I did not know that there were any survivors. I always heard that all children drowned.
There were 2 boys, and I remember reading interviews when they were older that they could still clearly describe what happened, but they were not tied to nuns, and they were washed into the treetop, and they stayed there and clung on during the entire storm.
Could you forward that to me? I'd love to read it if you have it.
Yeah, I'll find that. It's really heartbreaking though. But you were talking about Sister Catherine, who was one of the nuns, and her body, along with her foundlings that were tied to her, the portion of the beach where she was found was right in front of where the Galvez is now. And she is seen when storms start to come into the island. She is seen pacing the beach up and down, trying to kind of warn people and keep an eye out for things.
And she has been seen.
Kids, yes, she's been seen.
Yeah.
And the kids, along with several other children ghosts, hang out inside the Galvez and have all kinds of fun.
Yes, I do. And I did some work out there. And I think I sent you that Travel Channel piece we did out there. That I brought a medium out there, and she connected up with some of the children that she thought was in the Galvez. Laughing, running around, playing with balls and stuff like that.
Yes, they're very active. It's interesting to me, though. We were in the middle of a huge winter storm that we weren't prepared for last week. So everybody was out of power, out of water, everything. But a lot of my
doing okay, though, right?
Yes. Well, I am. There are still homes without water. And there are some homes that won't have power for another 3 weeks. So there are still people really roughing it. Yeah. Several of my friends stayed at the Galvez, and during the storm, I was getting all these calls. Hey, we're at the Galvez. What do we look for as long as we're stuck here? What do we do? And I even had friends that are very interested in ghosts and they believe in ghosts that were staying in 501, which is the notoriously haunted room. And she kept texting me, nothing's happening. But it was funny because even a couple of the staff members I talked to said there was absolutely no activity that entire week, which is very unusual. And I think maybe they were kind of hanging back because there was so much stress as it was among the living that they just kind of hung back. And normally during hurricanes, they're right out there having fun. So I thought it was really interesting.
Maybe they were trying to look after folks and just trying to keep things,
calm.
at bay. I don't know.
It's possible.
No, we are dealing with people, so who knows?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Very interesting.
You do know we're going to have to come out from California now and stay at the Hotel Galvez, right? Or maybe a week.
You have to. You have to.
Pete, you're not invited.
It's okay. I didn't want to go anyway. I don't like you. I don't know why we keep doing this.
I'm sorry. It's just, Wyatt won't let you come.
It's okay. All right. I'll just show up with my Dane and my Dane will chase around Wyatt, so I don't have to worry about it.
All right, Wyatt's staying home.
Well, Zeus doesn't like you anyway, so you're going to be busy too.
Why? Just because every time he hears my voice, he growls and attacks the phone doesn't mean he doesn't like me.
I try to talk to him, but you know how dogs are. They don't listen.
Yeah, I never should have sent you that shoe to train your dog. That's all I know. Shouldn't have happened.
There you go.
So, Kathleen, just a really quick question, something that I was really wondering. The nickname for Galveston, the Oleander City, is there a historical reason for that nickname?
There is. After a ship captain back in the 1800s brought back from an exotic land a flowering bush, which was an oleander, but they didn't exist in our country at that time. Brought one back as a souvenir to his wife, and she planted it in her yard. That particular shrub still exists. It's still alive. It's in back of the mansion. But she took cuttings from it for her friends, and you can grow oleanders from cuttings. And then several of the wealthier ladies in town, including Magnolia Willis Seeley, helped to variegate different varieties and colors. So they were known as the Oleander Capital and the Oleander City because they used to be all up and down the esplanades and in everybody's yards. It was like that when I was growing up even, but I took out a lot of it. So that was why they were known as the Oleander City, because everywhere you went there were oleanders, and there are still quite a few.
Yeah, but go ahead, Pete. No, go ahead.
I was going to change topic. Go ahead and finish.
No, that's fine.
Okay, since we're in the Galvez now, I wanted to have you kind of give us a haunted tour of the Galvez and some experiences, some stories. Just basically pick your brain.
Okay. So
and also the book you've written. What is the name of it, and where can people get it to?
Okay, so the latest book is actually a history of the Hotel Galvez, and the book before that was The Ghosts of Galveston.
Okay.
The book before that was Galveston's Broadway Cemeteries, and they can be found online, Amazon. If you're in Galveston, you can buy them in the local gift shops, but they're available on Amazon.
Okay. I'll post a link on our page. So if anybody wants to get up, they can get it there.
Okay.
And you can, I believe you can probably order them at any Barnes and Noble or bookstore as well.
Are they on Kindle
absolutely.
as well?
They are, yes.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can order them through your local gift shop, they would appreciate it.
Okay. Sounds good.
So the Hotel Galvez was built as a sign after the 1900 storm. It was finished in 1911, but it was built as a sign to the world that Galveston was coming back. They weren't going to give up. They were rebuilding. They were going to be bigger and better than ever, and it's kind of the symbol. And she's been open ever since. As you walk in the front doors, the first thing you see is a beautiful wood bar. And although it's not original to the hotel, it was in the last speakeasy in Galveston.
So that's got a lot to it too.
Yeah, it has a really cool history. As you walk in, then you turn left and go down the hallway. There's a portrait of Bernardo de Galvez, that is who Galveston is named after.
Okay.
Although he never stepped foot in Galveston.
A lot of people name places that they've never been there.
Yes.
Yeah,
so,
we actually have quite a few like that here in California. Kathleen, I'm sorry, but can we pick this up on the other side of the Weird World News, because right now we have to go with a quick break, And when we get done with the break, we will be back with Angie Moley and the Weird World News.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Ladies and gentlemen, and the world all over, it is the birthday girl, Angie Mole, and the Weird World News.
Good evening. Okay, first off, Metamorphic Rock is the weirdest rock, the weirdest rock group out there. Not
is it?
Not
is that a metaphor for something?
No, literally metamorphic. Metamorphic Rock is the weirdest rock group. But you go on with your crappy jokes. That's fine.
Oh, shot over the bow. There we go.
Boom.
But I'm not here to give a geology lesson, so whatever. Let's move on to the let's eat human meat portion of the evening instead. How about that?
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good. Nothing like cannibals.
But
so much for getting dinner tonight.
Glad to help. So I am going to do some paraphrasing. So there's kind of a lot in here, but who really wants the details when it comes to this? So
Me?
First we have, I'll send you the link. First we have a deranged felon free on a commuted sentence for only a month who cut out a woman's heart and cooked it up with potatoes. He then tried to serve it to his aunt, uncle, and their granddaughter. They didn't eat it, so instead he tried to kill them all. His aunt was the only one who survived, though, and I bet they won't pick him to be released due to overcrowding next time.
Oh, God.
What I thought was incredibly interesting about that was that he was released in January and then did this within a month. And
wow.
However, there was a 3-1 vote to get his sentence commuted so that he could leave. And now they're actually going to have an evaluation to see if he's mentally fit to stand trial. And it's like, how did he go that crazy that fast? Seems to me that he was just probably, that crazy at the hearing. I could be wrong. I don't know, but I just think it's really hard to go from 0 to cannibal, plus murderer, like all in one. But hey,
and where was this?
Maybe he was possessed by the Donner Party.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now,
where was it?
Now I was going to say,
Alabama.
Be careful,
I think?
because Terry actually has relatives who were in the Donner Party. However, they actually managed to get through before the snow hit, so she's not a cannibal. But
good.
Watch it there with the Donner was,
Okay.
Well,
sorry.
no. Anyway, the reason I was asking Angie is because
sorry, Terry.
out here in California, and this is one of the reasons why I really.
It was Oklahoma, not Alabama. Sorry, Alabama. No, it was Oklahoma. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'm surprised it's not California.
Uh-oh. I heard the producer come in. Don't get her mad.
That is exactly why I interrupted Brian to make that correction.
No, I have no problem with
really
that.
Quick.
Hey, why are all these people coming on right now and saying there's dead air? Wait. But as far as California goes, I don't know whether you guys heard, but our governor just released, I think it was like 62% of all of our criminals, and about 40 some odd % of those ended up back in jail within a month and a half. So that's why I was wondering, because it sounded like something California would do.
Yeah, no, it was Oklahoma, and reading, the rationale and everything. I mean, how we do it in Texas. You go to death row and we take care of you pretty quickly. Like
Yeah.
there was a shortage in lethal injection juice for a while because of us. So, we don't play around. So to hear, that they're doing all that stuff in Oklahoma, and it's been going on for a little while. It's very strange.
All right. And then, so wait, just real quick, I have to ask, in Texas, when they do the lethal injection, do they do the alcohol prep first? Because I always wondered about that. It's like, are you worried about infection before he dies?
My understanding
They
is
do.
that they do, although
They do.
it is absolutely pointless, I believe. But whatever. I mean, we can't be cruel and unusual to these people.
Yeah.
Oh God, sorry for offending people, but I just got another year older, so I don't care. How about that? I'm too old to care if I offend people now.
All right, so now you're just scaring me, Angie.
Okay, so, well, it gets worse. Australia needs to watch their backs because Scotland is coming for the creepiest country title. A woman in Edinburgh got in a fight with a man, aggressively kissed him, then bit off his tongue and spat it out into the street. The woman ran away, and the man stood watching helplessly as a large seagull swooped down, grabbed his discarded tongue chunk, and flew off with it.
And don't tell me his final words before the thing flew off was, "Moo."
I mean, that's how he was quoted, yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Arkansas police are having a fun time with paperwork at the moment since all 4 male suspects share the same name. These were suspects in a rather interesting situation at a Dollar General store. Wait, it was the yellow and black one. Is that Dollar General? Yeah. 4 separate versions of Stacey Abram are criminals, and 3 are in custody, but 1 is still on the loose. Stacey Abram Jr. is 68 and
in Georgia.
I'm sorry.
Nothing.
Oh, I had something to say about that at the end, but okay. Stacey Abram Jr. is 68 and is facing charges of furnishing a prohibited weapon to a felon. Stacey Shunte Abram is 31 and is being charged with being a felon in possession of a firearm. Stacey Orlando Abram had a previous warrant out for first-degree battery and terroristic threat and was arrested as well during the family roundup at the Dollar General. Stacey Malcolm Abram ran at the scene, and they're still trying to track him down. He's wanted for a shooting on Thanksgiving Day.
Is somebody clogging with bells?
No, that would be Pete's dog drinking water, I'm assuming. Am I right?
That's not me. I just came off the pause.
That's what it sounds like, though.
It's Kylie. No. Kylie the Wonder Lab appears on your show this time. Sorry. But it is like clogging with bells.
Yeah, clogging with bells.
If I'd been a boy, I would have been Al the Fourth, which I think is pretty cool. But naming all of your living children from one generation after yourself is just narcissistic, and it really rubs me the wrong way and annoys me. And I am sure
also
that
bat pig crazy.
I'm sorry.
It's also bat pig crazy.
Okay, good. See, we're right.
All about that.
Yeah, are wrong.
Now, Angie. Just so you know, there is a man in Houston who is quite famous.
Yes, I am well aware. And if you would just keep your mouth shut and let me make my stupid jokes.
Yes, dear.
Okay. Doing something that moronic sounds like something that someone would do when they've been hit in the head too many times.
I'm not saying a word.
Yes, that's my.
I got nothing.
But
I got nothing. Kathleen, you still there?
I'm just staying out of this.
She ran.
I knew sooner or later we were going to run her off.
And I was going to say something about morons, politics, Georgia, whatever. Not the same people. We're talking about a family of 4 guys in Arkansas versus that person in Georgia that we don't talk about. More weird things are in the sky again, and this time
he who should not be named.
Well, you know, I mean, I don't even really. The only thing that I have against the woman, like personally, I feel offended, is that she had so many YouTube ads. I mean,
I know Captain Obvious.
Well, I was thinking about.
I was born in Roswell, so I have to stay out of this.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. Well, my dad. We have family friends who lived in Roswell for years, and I used to visit up there every summer. I didn't even know until I was like a teenager that Roswell was known as the alien town. I had no clue.
I always wanted to go to the little alien, and I know it's probably just a dive, but I always thought it was kind of a cool name.
Actually, and Terry and I are planning on going out there. It's basically a big Airstream trailer out in the middle of the desert on a highway.
That's it, huh?
It's one, yeah, but it's one of those places that you just have to go to if you're into that kind of thing, you know. And I
understand that a lot of the decor is really cool.
Yeah, it is. I want to go on a UFO watch weekend. I think that would be kind of cool.
Well, yeah, you should go on a UFO. Maybe, maybe they might find out what's wrong with you.
Hey, you know what? I actually almost did until they found out I was looking forward to being probed, and then they left me behind. So it was like, all right, well, I don't know. Kind of bummed.
Wise choice, probably.
Bummed, huh?
Probably.
I bet.
Okay, all right.
When I was a teacher, I had to justify the use of certain pieces of literature. One of the ones that I loved, I still love, I can quote it almost perfectly line by line, was Romeo and Juliet. There are many justifications for why it's still relevant, but the simplest one is that it's great evidence that human nature doesn't change, even though, centuries have gone by. It just doesn't. And the recent discovery of a gigantic penis carved into a Roman millstone is proof of that. If you pick up any dictionary from a public school, you're guaranteed to find a poorly drawn phallus in profile on many of the pages. Why? Nobody
you have
knows.
a story now. I thought you were just talking.
Nobody knows, not even the teenage boys who drew them. However, 2,000 years ago, they were carved into stones, made into tiny amulets to be worn on a necklace, and they were for good luck and to show strength and virility. And this discovery recently was made in the UK. It's important because it's only one of 4 known examples of a millstone penis. This one was likely used for grinding wheat, and the use of the imagery shows how important the flour mill was to the residents.
You never really hear about a penis grinding wheat.
Exactly. That is why
like
you hired me.
Is that an archaeological category, millstone penises?
I think so. It sounds like it.
I mean, my tongue is bleeding.
My education.
We've
I was going to say my tongue is bleeding because I'm biting it so hard right now. So please continue.
Yes, you please continue too, because I think I heard sound coming from you again.
Oh, 3 Texans against a Californian. Oh, dude. That was blood. There's blood being drawn right now. Oh.
I will forgive you for the birthday comment and the retirement age comment at some point, but tonight ain't it.
Tonight ain't it. Yep.
Oh,
So
this is it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's getting brutal. And this isn't even round 2 yet.
Finish him.
What is this, Mortal Kombat? Jeez.
All right,
Mortal Kombat 2.
Finish reading the news, Caden.
You guys, let the poor girl tell her penis story.
Really? Because it's a long one.
Angie, please continue talking about your penis.
Quit making this so hard for me.
Oh.
Are we really making your penis
Ladies
hard?
and gentlemen, we have now moved
Family
up
radio,
to
ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my God.
I think we may have actually reached the point where I don't know that I can finish because I can't stop laughing.
Uh-oh. Brian's coming back.
Okay, so y'all have seen the commercials. I think it's for Cheez-Its where...
Finish the penis thing.
The guy's like, the cheese is maturing.
That's like penis mentions, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah.
We probably set a record.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's a record. Cat's going to be mad at us at the end of the show. We're going to get...
Cat can't stop laughing. It's all good.
So, okay. So this.
Welcome to the last show of the. I hope y'all are enjoying it.
Are you kidding? This is ratings gold. Just keep going.
That's what she said.
Win the papers.
Okay, so the importance of this wheel that has the stuff that we've been talking about etched into it.
Now we're back down to stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
We're back down to PG-13. Okay, folks.
It shows.
Call it a doodle.
A McDoodle. The Scottish.
It's a doodle.
I mean, I can't. If you saw what else I had written on here, I can't. I just can't, y'all. Okay, so.
Excuse me. To quote a movie line, can you call it Tallywhacker? Penis is so personal. Gotta let portraits.
Finish him off.
Basically,
okay, so there was
difference-
a millstone with a doodle on it, and
right, and so because of the meaning behind why these people would just, sculpt penises into things, is not the same reason people do it now. I mean, obviously, and so the point of why this is an important discovery is because it shows a connection of how important the flour mill was to that particular community And because it was such an integral part of their survival, they felt the need to protect it with a penis. I mean, that was what that was for the good luck and, as an amulet and whatever. So that's.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Probably not.
What would this symbol do if something bad happened to the mill?
Don't say it.
I have no idea. I don't believe in
I'm
that
not
stuff.
answering it. I'm asking it.
I have no idea. I don't believe in that stuff.
Okay.
I mean,
They would rise to the occasion.
Oh my God. Now the producer's getting involved.
Yeah, oh my God. Kat's going to find herself.
My work here is done. I have made everything erupt into chaos. Yes.
Yes, you have.
Well played, my friend.
Oh my God. She just threw down the mic. It's over. Angie won.
Well, yeah. So with that, I believe it is time for me to say that I am done. That's all I got for y'all.
Oh, thank God. Angie. Our 20-minute break. Uh-oh. Yep. You have just listened to the final show of the Full Spectrum Project. All right, so we're going to go to a station identification break and pray that we come back and can stop laughing. So we'll see you on the other side of the break.
Oh, Jesus.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Paratalk Radio is your one-stop for all things paranormal, the unknown, and the supernatural. Join us every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central for discussions and guests on topics such as ghosts, hauntings, Bigfoot, UFOs, and more. This broadcast is rated M for mature and intended for listeners over 16 on paratalkradio.com.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
And welcome back to the Full Spectrum Project on WBHM-DB. If you haven't already joined the chat room, good for you, because it was a weird one. But if you want to join the chat room,
weird world news. Yes, Angie. Angie threw down the microphone. She is now retiring as the champion, putting us in this. Yeah.
Okay, Pete, quit while you're behind.
I still can't breathe.
Anyway, if you want to join the chat room, you can go to WBHM-DB.com and click on the Full Spectrum Project show banner. That'll take you to the chat room. And if you have any questions for our guest or the host, you can call into area code 205-533-7982. And we've been talking with Kathleen Maca. And Kathleen, I haven't the vaguest idea where we left off because my brain stopped working about 10 minutes ago.
Imagine that. Well, I'm not going to follow all that. What are you talking about?
Pete, do you remember where we were?
I think we were talking about ghosts.
Oh, yes, we were talking. We were walking into the hotel.
Yes.
You were talking about the Galvez portrait.
Yeah, there's a portrait right at the
that one out
end of
too.
the
I
entrance
can't believe
hall.
I remember that. Yeah,
you're listening. So the portrait doesn't like its picture taken when people try to take photographs of it.
Pay attention. I swear to God.
You have to ask permission before you take a photograph of the portrait. And if you don't, all that shows is a skull instead of his face. So they say the portrait's haunted.
Have you ever seen a picture?
Now,
I have seen a picture that turns out like that.
Have you ever seen a picture of the skull?
Yes, but I can also explain it. So, but it's a fun little anomaly of the portrait.
Please do.
So
Please do.
It's the way that the varnish is done on the painting, that when people use flash, it reflects just off of parts of the face and it ends up looking like a skull. But it's a really cool effect.
Oh, cool.
But
well,
on the same end of...
I was going to say, I was kind of curious, though, if you ask permission, wouldn't you still have the flash and get the same effect?
You would think. But then the story wouldn't be any good.
That's true. That is true.
What is cool at that end of the hall, though, there are some glass doors that go into a spa. But when the hotel was originally built, that was an ice cream parlor. So most of the guests nowadays don't know that. They just know that that's where the spa is. And they'll be standing outside of the spa, chatting with each other, and they'll hear a little girl's voice say, ice cream, because she asks people for ice cream because she thinks they're going in the ice cream parlor. And there are also big blown-up photos of the grand opening of the hotel in the interior in that end of the hallway, and there are ghosts in the photos. You can point them out, you can see them, you can pick out their clothing. They're actually really clear. And I think I've got a couple of those pictures in the Ghosts of Galveston book, but they're pretty cool. But the most famous ghost of the Galvez is Audra. Do either of you know the story about Audra?
I definitely don't.
Okay, so it's one of those bride ghost stories. This one actually has some...
Oh, yeah. That's not the one in the 501. That's the one in the Widow's Walk, right?
Yeah. She came to the hotel when her...
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes.
When her fiance, who is a merchant marine, went out to sea, she stayed at the Hotel Galvez, and the agreement was when he got back, then they would get married. So she stayed at the Galvez, and this was back in the 50s before air conditioning, if you can believe it, in Texas. So the hotel has these turrets, and they would keep the stairwells and everything open, and the Gulf breeze would come into the turrets and flow downward and through the halls, and that's basically what air conditioned it. So she would climb up in the turret every day and sit and watch and wait for his ship to come in. And one day, somebody came to her with the news that his ship had been lost at sea. She didn't believe it, but she kept going up to the turret every day, and eventually, a few days later, she admitted to herself that he really wasn't coming back, and she hung herself in the turret. What makes the story even sadder is he showed up a few days later because he had been saved by a passing ship. So Audra haunts room 501 along with a few other rooms on the 5th floor. She paces the hallway. You can hear her walking down the 5th floor to go up to the stairwell to the turret. She doesn't necessarily like people in her room, and she causes a little bit of grief sometimes if you're staying in her room. So she's the most famous Galvez ghost. And 501 is, if you want a haunted room, that's the one you try to book.
Well, then that's definitely the one I will try to book.
Definitely.
Although
I
here's
heard
the thing.
also, I heard also too that the people that get the issues with trying to get into the room. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
The people that try to get the card key to get into the room, they always have problems with trying to get into the room, or it's erased, or it comes up with like 000 or something.
So
something along
they
those.
use the magnetic card keys like most of the hotels do now. And one night, one of the guests was swiping his card key, and it wouldn't open the door. So he took it down to the front desk, and they scanned it to see, what room number it would come up as, or see if it would work. And the display came up and said expired 1954, which is the year that she died. And they didn't have electronic card keys in 54, obviously.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of one of those weird things.
Huh. Yeah, I'll tell you, I would love to stay in that room. But if Terry is with me, she's ghost repellent. So we could literally stay in a hotel room that was so haunted that nobody could spend the night, and we would be able to just sleep soundly through the whole evening. It's really kind of interesting.
That is a pretty cool trick.
Yeah, it is, unless you like, spending time with ghosts, which I do. So, it's a trade-off. So what other kind of ghosts and activity do they have at the hotel?
Oh gosh, they have a lot of kids that some of them they think are Sister Catherine that we talked about earlier. They think that they're Sister Catherine's wards. There are other ones that seem to date closer to the opening of the hotel. There's a little girl in a white knee-length dress with purple bows in her hair and purple bows on her shoes, and she likes to ride the elevator. And she'll be standing in the elevator, and people will get in and think she must be doing a reenactment of some sort. And as they're in between floors, she just vanishes. There are all kinds of things that's pretty amazing, the stuff that goes on there.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think I'm going to end up putting that on my bucket list.
You should. I highly recommend it. And besides, it's a beautiful hotel.
Yeah. Now, I'm sorry. What year did you say it was built? I know you said it, but 1911.
It's going to be 110 years this year.
Wow. I actually love those old hotels like that. We're trying to get into the hotel. Are you familiar with the Hotel Del Coronado by any chance?
Oh, yes. Yes. My mother grew up in San Diego, so she was a big fan of the Del Coronado.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, we're trying to get in there. And that's actually the chapter I'm working on, the last chapter for the San Diego book. And I've been dealing with the historian for the Del. I mean, she has been absolutely fantastic. And she was telling us that as soon as things kind of calm down a little bit, she's going to let us know we can come down and check out Kate Morgan's room, which I think is really
Oh,
cool.
wow.
That they allow us to do that. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm finding out so much that I did not know about Kate Morgan with the books that the historian sent that just completely go against what the common knowledge is of what happened. So it really is a very interesting story. So just out of curiosity, if you remember, I asked you about the Strand earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Can you tell us about the school teacher who seems to haunt the Strand?
Yes, the school teacher is actually, remember when you guys were talking about the building that kind of has the hallway in between it, and I told you that was the Ball Hutchings building? She is upstairs in the Ball Hutchings. She was taking shelter in the building on the upper floors with a few other people during the 1900 storm. And as the floodwaters were coming by, they were up to the second floor, the floodwaters were. And as people washed by, she is known for her bravery. She was stepping out on the ledge and pulling people into the building. Some of them had already passed, and she would have the men put them on one side of the building, but some of them were still alive and just needed tending, and they were laying on another side of the building. And she actually stayed in the building for 3 days, tending to the people who were injured and sick, and ended up dying herself.
Wow.
As did one of the little boys, and they are both very active in that. It's kind of on the inside that looks like two conjoined buildings with a big hallway and stairwell in the middle. But the little boys and Imp, he's always doing stuff. There's a shop called Tina's, and he goes in there at night and stacks all their candles, like playing blocks in the middle of the floor, and they're just used to it. And she basically is known to just watch out for people. She's seen more when storms are coming. People tend to spot her more because she's on the lookout. But the little boy is everywhere. He moves things. He hides things. He's just something else. One of the fun things about visiting the Strand, though, is you can actually go up to the people working in the shops and just say, tell me your ghost stories, and they will.
Oh, that's cool.
It's great.
It's kind of funny. Just about wherever I go, I do that. Whether I know about a ghost story or not, I just go up and say, do you guys have any paranormal activity? And it's kind of funny because my family knows about when I'm going to do that, and they just turn around and walk out. I'm like, nope.
Right.
Nope, we're not going to, But, I find it kind of amusing, and it's like, you know what? It doesn't bother me a bit. And I'm sure you get the same thing if you ask somebody. Half the time you get this look like, are you insane? And the other half, it's this conspiratorial, oh my God, yes, let me tell you.
That's exactly
You never know which one you're going to get. Yeah. So when you said that the woman during like hurricanes and bad weather and stuff is on the lookout for other people, are you saying that she like is looking out for them to try and help?
Of like watching out to make sure nobody's getting hurt, and her appearance is part of kind of a warning system that people know the storm is going to be a bad one if they see her.
Wow.
I wonder if her and Sister Catherine are aware of each other.
They're actually on opposite sides of the island, and right in the middle of the island there is a building called the Bishop's Palace. It's a beautiful old home.
Palace. Colonel Gresham, is that Miss? I was going to say, is that Miss Betty? But that's a different house.
That's a different one. Yeah. Bishop's Palace was built by Mr. Gresham, and he actually paces the grounds around his home before hurricanes. So there's actually one on each side of the island and one in the middle.
I've heard that people have seen him driving by. They've seen him pacing. Is that true?
Yes, Yes.
Okay.
He's not
Now,
seen that often, but he is before storms.
Okay.
So basically, you're saying that even though people know he's there, he doesn't really show himself unless there is a bad storm coming.
Right.
So I wonder how many people on the island actually use that to try, like if they know there's if they know there's a storm coming. I wonder if people actually go by these locations just to see if they can spot the ghost to see how bad the storm is. Almost like their own private little barometer.
I've heard before storms hit, the grapevine kind of goes, if somebody says they've seen them, it just goes through the grapevine like electricity. That's like, oh, somebody saw him, or somebody saw Sister Catherine.
Huh.
Now I was just brought up Miss Betty and her home. I can't remember what the home's name is, but I did some work out there.
Villa.
My brain's much. Ashton Villa. That was a 1900 storm survivor too, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah,
and
didn't the water go up to like the 13th step, or it was like real high into the house?
Yeah,
before they raised it. I mean,
it did. It did, and that's one of the buildings, like a lot of buildings, that if you look at the fence in the front, it looks like this really low little 3-foot fence, but it was actually a really high wrought iron fence. They just didn't move the fence when they did the fill, so now it looks short.
Right.
It's all underground. But yeah, Miss Betty was a hoot in real life. She's fun just to read about her life, but after death, she's actually very busy too. And although she gets a lot of the credit for haunting Ashton Villa, people talk about hearing the piano playing as they go by, and it was her sister Tilly.
That.
Yeah, her sister Matilda is actually the one that plays the piano, and Betty never learned how to play the piano.
Okay. Well, when I did some work out there a few times, and I had the opportunity of seeing. Well, somebody was talking. I was on the tour because I always try to do the tour before I go out and do work, so I can kind of get a lay of the land. And as they were talking about her, I did see her picture was on a tri stand. I saw it starting to move as they were talking about her, and we were going downstairs into. I believe it's a ball area, but it was turned into a Masonic temple, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
At one point it was a temple, but it's now a ballroom again.
Is there a ballroom again? Okay. I did see I think it was a blue dress that kind of whipped around the corner, like blue chiffon or something. It was just blue, just went around the corner. So that was kind of interesting. I don't normally get a lot of stuff when I go, but of course, you never have your camera ready when you see the stuff.
Of course not.
No, of course not.
Although, wouldn't it be fun if you did? I know. I talked to one of the house managers. The house Ashton Villa is one of the beautiful tour homes of Galveston that hasn't reopened since Ike. It's almost empty. They had so much damage.
Oh, wow.
So it's not open to the public at this point. But when one of the property managers was in there moving boxes, there were two people on the property, she and another woman, and they were going up and down stairs moving boxes afterwards. And one of the docents in full costume came by her, and she thought, oh, I'm going to have to say something to her. She shouldn't even be in here. And when she got to the bottom of the stairs, the other woman was there. And she said, who was that? And she said, who was who? And the woman, that's when she realized the woman was wearing a blue dress. And she was headed up to Betty's bedroom. And there was nobody up there. They went and checked.
Oh, wow. Well, that just confirms what I saw.
Yes.
Hey, sorry, guys. We need to take our final station identification break, but we'll continue with Kathleen Maca when we come back from the break.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the World Wide Web of Weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
And welcome back to the Full Spectrum Project on WBHM-DB out of Birmingham, Alabama. There's still a little bit of time if you want to join the chat room. If you do, go to WBHM-DB.com. And if you have questions and you'd like to call in, you can call in to area code 205-533-7982. Just out of curiosity, as things are opening up, do you guys have restaurants opening up where you guys are?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, still, like here in California, it's still pretty well closed, and we've been looking for Chinese food because it seems like those are the ones that they're just locked down tight. I don't know whether it's because of a cultural thing or what. But you know how, like, if you go to, say, the drive-thru of McDonald's or Taco Bell or something like that, and then you get home, you find that one of your tacos is missing or your fries are missing or something like that. Try that for a Chinese takeout. All right. I mean, it's really bad because it's like, all right, so you go there, the takeout costs you $10, right? Then your tip is $2, say $1 for gas. And finding they forgot your order is riceless. So, it's one of those things that just drives me up a wall.
Really? You had a whole pocket full and you chose that one?
Come on, he worked on that one.
Yes, I do.
He worked on that one too. He tried to build it up and it just fell flat. What happened?
Really?
I expect so much better from you.
Pete, you're partly what's wrong with society, right? I mean, think about it. All right. 100 years ago, everyone.
I wasn't around here 100 years ago, so
I'm just saying, because society changes. So 100 years ago, everybody owned horses and only the rich had cars. Today, everyone has cars and only the rich have horses. I mean, don't you find it odd that how the stables have turned? Yes or no? I'll take that as a no.
Hear the rice joke again. I think I'd rather hear about the rice jokes again.
Okay, so I can do that. No? All right.
Kathleen again. I'm sorry.
Where were we when we left off?
A moment of silence for the
I have no idea.
A moment of silence for the death of the show.
Yeah. I think we're on teetering ice right now after Angie.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah. I don't know if
all right, so
no, I'll ask you this. I asked you behind, when we were on break, about a house out there that has been reported that there's a body in it. You had told me that it's not true. Can you tell us a story about that house and what the name of it was and why it's not true about the body?
So it's a really beautiful but unusual looking house from the street. It's on a corner lot, and the top floor is kind of I think it's attached to the attic space, but it's actually been closed off for a long time. But it has a window that's kind of blocked off, and I think that's when people said, ooh, why is it blocked off? There must be something up there. And that's where the story started, that there's a body buried up there. And actually that whole section, evidently, of the attic was closed off a while back. But when they reopened it, there was nothing in it. But it makes a good story.
Okay. Was there a haunting in there at all? Or is it just a really odd house?
No, it was just the story about the body in the house because it was an unusual looking house. But that's why we investigate these ghost stories, and some of them are true and some of them aren't. And it can be fun. You can end up finding out stuff that you didn't even hear about before. When I wrote the ghost book, I ended up.
Go ahead.
Oh, I ended up gathering over a couple hundred ghost stories for the Ghost of Galveston book, and decided the only way I could narrow it down was I was only going to include buildings that still existed so people could visit them. Because what a bummer is it when you read a book and you go there and the building's not even there anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
And only sites where I could find some kind of documentation that the story happened, whether it was their death certificate or a news story from the time that the event actually happened or something. So that's how I ended up narrowing it down.
Now that what was that house called? And is that the same house that I heard that there was bodies in a well? Does that make any sense?
So no, the Landis house is the one I think that people say there was something in the attic, and I think what you're referring to is it was actually close to where the Strand was now, and a enslaved woman named Lucy killed her mistress and threw her body down the well. Okay. And I think that's where the well stories started. That incident, that murder actually happened, but it kind of got, how the game Post Office.
Yeah.
Then it turned into there's a well somewhere with a bunch of bodies in it, but it's just Miss Dougherty. She's the only one.
Gotcha.
You were talking. You were talking about how a lot of stories, aren't true, that there aren't hauntings and things like that. I find it funny with one of the books that I wrote, people keep coming up and asking me, well, why didn't you put the Vanderlip estate? That's the most haunted place in the area. And it actually turns out that the story of the ghosts at the Vanderlip mansion started because old man Vanderlip was a little bit out there. He was literally white as a ghost, and he used to wander around the grounds in just his white underwear. That started this.
That's something you don't see every day.
Yeah, I love it.
But it started this whole big ghost haunted house thing that, and I mean, people would literally go up there and try and break into the grounds to see the ghost. And it really is amazing how these things tend to take on a life of their own.
Yeah. I take credit for one of the ghost stories that is told it about Ashton Villa, because back, I'm old, but I was in college in the 80s, and we had a ball in the ballroom of Ashton Villa. We all came to Galveston, had the ball there, and the girls all wore the big Southern Belle hoop skirts, and the boys wore, the Southern gentleman suits and everything.
Oh, cool.
And we parked in the back, and we're walking around to the front of the building to come in. And just as we made the corner, a gentleman with a little brown paper bag that he'd been imbibing with came stumbling around the corner and stopped in his tracks when he saw us. He threw down his bottle and ran away yelling, "Ghosts, ghosts, So he probably never
That's
drank
funny.
again, but we're probably one of his stories that he tells.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but you know what? Didn't it make you feel good to do that?
That we
Or
made
is
him
that
stop
just
drinking,
me?
or that we were a ghost.
That you were a ghost.
I really liked it, but I've liked ghost stories since I could read. So
Yeah, because I mean, you've heard of the Whaley House, I'm sure, right?
oh, absolutely.
So we were investigating the Whaley House, and it was probably a little after 2 a.m. And I was
have to come out
upstairs
there and
looking.
play with you guys.
Come on out. So I'm upstairs looking out one of the rear windows, and there was a group of 20-somethings that probably had just come from a bar, and they were all kind of, getting all conspiratorial, and they kind of looked up at the window. I felt so good because they all screamed and scattered. I mean, it was the weirdest
It must have
feeling,
been the first time they'd seen you.
I actually started giggling. And trust me, hearing me giggle is not a pleasant thing, but it was just so much fun. All right, so I wanted to ask you about one more ghost, and this one kind of piqued my interest.
Okay.
There is a decapitated man who supposedly haunts the Railroad Museum.
Oh, I heard about him.
Poor guy.
Is this a true
happened.
haunting?
It's
okay.
It's a true story and a true haunting. Bless his heart. He was a sailor, and he had come in on the ship Michigan, and the Strand, of course, back then was filled with bars and things. So he had wandered out in all his best clothes, and we know exactly what he was wearing, unfortunately, due to what happened. But he wandered down the Strand, and he had hit a couple of bars, and the last time he was seen was about 10:30, and he was, quote unquote, walking with a wavering step, and then nobody ever saw him again. But when the train was coming down the track, they saw what they thought was somebody sleeping on the track, and although they tried to stop, they couldn't, and they hit it. When they went back, they found the body but not the head, and realized that he'd been hit by an earlier train.
Oh, no.
Oh.
So they looked.
I did not know that part of it.
Yeah, they looked for hours, and the policemen paced from where the trains were all the way to the Railroad Museum, which was the train yard, back and forth.
Right.
And when the train went forward and stopped in the train yard, the head rolled out. It had been kicked up under the trucks by the wheels.
Oh, my Lord.
And steering. And when it rolled out, he still had his hat on.
Oh, are you kidding me?
True story.
That is a good hat.
Yeah. Or you have to
that's
wonder
a good
just
derby hat.
how tight was that hat on his head?
I know, right?
I mean, that
pulled that all the
had
way
to-
down.
Yeah, I was going to say
that is
hat
horrible.
had to hurt when he was wearing it.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
That is.
So we have a question in the chat room that wants to know if you've ever had an experience that actually scared you. The person says that you seem like you're really brave.
One that really scared me. I think when you're not expecting it, if you're going into a property and you're thinking, it's that time of night and that's why you're there, you're really looking for evidence, it's more exciting when something happens. But when something happens and you're not expecting it, it can throw you off guard.
Yeah.
But I can't say I've ever been frightened by anything.
Yeah, see, I'm the same way.
Yeah, I've done everything from felt cold spots in houses that I docented to seen full body apparitions, and I think I would have to feel threatened in some way, and I've been lucky not to have felt that way.
See, my feeling is that you're still dealing with people, so I mean I'm not scared of any. I haven't met anybody that I didn't like, so it doesn't really get me this much.
Yeah,
Well, I think the
I've
only
just
time
been lucky though, because there are some out there that I think might be threatening, but I haven't come across them, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
For me, I think the only time that I've actually been, and I'm not sure scared it rises to that, but and I've mentioned this before on air, is at Alcatraz watching a friend of mine who was 300 and some odd pounds having his chair slide back into a wall, get knocked over, and at the same time we heard this disembodied "Get out."
See, that's a Jack Daniels night.
Yeah, and I think we kind of did afterwards.
Yeah.
So Kathleen, we only have about a minute left. So you have a new book that you just sent to the publisher. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and then give us a brief idea of how we can get your books?
Okay, so the one that just came out this month is The History of the Hotel Galvez, and then there's The Ghosts of Galveston and Galveston's Broadway Cemeteries. Those are all available through barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, or you can order them through your local bookseller. They're from the History Press. The new one is actually for middle schoolers. It's a set of ghost stories about Galveston.
Oh, cool.
And that should come out by late spring, early summer.
Oh, is that for Spooky America?
It is.
Yeah, Brian, did you do something with the Queen Mary on something like that?
Yeah, our book Ghost of the Queen Mary was that was the first book they adapted for the Spooky America series. So we were really proud of that.
Right.
Yeah. So we had fun with that one. Okay, well, listen, Kathleen, we're kind of out of time, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on at such short notice. I know we were supposed to have you on last week, and I do apologize for Pete's behavior. He can really get out there sometimes. We put up with it, but we're trying to
love him.
We're trying to contain him, but we're having trouble with it. So, but I just wanted to thank you for coming on.
I'm so glad
it was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I had a lot of fun.
We did too.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. So next week, we will be joined by John Kachuba for a discussion about shapeshifters. And John was supposed to be on about a month or so ago, and we had to reschedule. So hopefully next week we will get together with John and discuss all things shapeshifter. And until then, everybody, please be safe. I know COVID seems to be ramping down, but it's still out there. So, please be aware and please stay safe. And we hope to see you next week.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.